nation stage. And first off, Danny, good to see you, man. Great to hang out a little bit. We talk on the phone all the time, but good to be in person.
Yeah, it's good to be in person with everybody that's so great for the sport.
Well, we work on it, that's for sure. I want to just take a little time and talk about you as a race car driver and as a man, as a person. But what's your first recollection of racing? You come from a racing family. What's the first thing you remember about racing?
Just watching my dad race, watching Fred Raymer race and Al Hamilton, actually, the Budweiser 21, Apple Chevy number 12, just back in that era. It was good times back then, a lot of good racing, just growing up around it, watching them guys, and the racing was so awesome back in the day. The guys, what they raced with was just unbelievable. That's what I remember the most.
How were you involved with your dad's racing, or were you the kid just sitting in the stands? How did that work with you and your dad when he was racing as you were a youngster?
I was probably the pain in the butt around the race car. Always trying to help or do something, and probably need to get out of the way. When I was, I'd say 12 or 11 years old, I was 13 or 14, so to say, going in the pit area, and I was my dad's tire guy when he ran 358s. Just grew up around it, always wanting to be around it and get involved as quick as I could. When I got started, I had to build my own car. That was kind of the deal. Is we were in used parts business, and the stuff we couldn't sell that wasn't good enough of quality, but was good enough for us to race, went in the back of the warehouse and tubs, for us to race out of. And I was told I had to build my own car if I wanted to go racing, and that's what out of that stuff. And it's probably a good thing I did. The first race I ever ran with a 305 motor against the 358s, and never completed every lap of the heat race. I think I got to the white flag and went into turn 3 at Trailways and drove straight in the fence.
Oh my God, rough start.
Yeah, busted the front end and rear end. It was my brother did the same thing, believe it or not, at Lincoln. So it's kind of a brotherly thing.
Was your dad or your mom, were they all right with you racing, do you think, when you get started? You're a racing family, but what was that like?
I think they were. I didn't need to go and impress anybody. That was the biggest thing they always told me. I still think my mom worries too much. I'm sure it's calmed down a little bit maybe. But, I race a lot more, so that probably doesn't help either. So they're here. They go to just about every race. There's some races outside the area they don't go to, but if there's a race in the area, they're there.
Indeed. Your dad, his racing, and he had a bad wreck along the way.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. And what was that like for you as a son?
I can remember clear as day. I don't know how to really describe it. I was sitting in the grandstands and just kind of watched him flip off of turn 3, and it was pretty bad at Lincoln. And I don't think my mom saw it. There was a crash happening in the front. It kind of happened going in the corner in the back side of things, and she just kind of looked at me, and I told her that was Dad. He just went out over, and it was a bad night. That was it was Easter Eve, 1996. I think it was April 10th.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how things can stick, but it's just it's a little tough to talk about.
Sure
We were close, close to being in a real bad spot in the family, but it all turned around with that accident. We were. My dad couldn't race for a living anymore, so he had to go to another alternative to make a living. So we ended up with the family business. That started late in '96, later that year. But watching my dad learn how to do everything again right, and learn how to, I remember watching him rehab building birdhouses, just simple stuff that, I was 8 years old and I could do it then, probably no problem. If someone gave you the pieces of board and said, put it together. But that was probably some of the toughest thing was, going and seeing that, watching them go through it. You're watching your dad do it. We had some real good people around us. Just my mom. I had a teacher of mine that was involved with racing. His name was Don Gillette, and he's still around. Big fan of mine. He'd get me and the kids. We'd get down to the hospital. And just go see my dad after the races or after school was out. And if it wasn't for him, he was such a big part of me and my brother and my sister's lives, and just our family, just getting us down there. And it just, it was a tough time, but it all turned out for the better. That's kind of how I get through it. It's an emotional thing, but if it wasn't for that, that I probably wouldn't be where I'm at now. It allowed us to have the used parts business, get me into racing, and get me into a 410 later on down the road. And they say everything happens for a reason. And I guess my dad paid the sacrifice for the family there.
Wow, absolutely amazing. And yet, you and your brother still race. There never was this anti-racing thing after that. I mean, some families distance themselves. Some families continue to embrace it. And you guys continue to embrace it.
Yeah, we kept racing. Dad got back in the car, and probably shouldn't have been in the car. We can still remember him back in the car and seeing double vision. His head trauma was really bad. His head came out of the car and hit the ground, and that was what did it. He shouldn't have been in a race car. Yeah. It's just that simple. In the end of '96, I think he ran a few races, and in '97 he raced again. It just shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And it was tough to see him struggle. But then he'd come around, he raced. He raced again with some trouble. But then got back to where he kind of needed to be. My brother started racing shortly after. Actually, I'm sorry, he started racing before that. But regardless, just a lot of things came from it, good, bad. You see a lot, you respect a lot, and the last thing I want to go to do at the track is tear a car up or go to. There's places I don't like going for safety reasons.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the other side of things. We've had to call family members on Easter Eve to cancel Easter. So there's places that 410s go to, like Eldora, that I'm just not comfortable as a driver. Maybe over time going there slowly I'll get more comfortable, but there's places like that are fast and they're on concrete. They don't give. That I think that there's ways we can make the sport safer, but some things I think are too safe that cause more injuries as well.
Danny, when it comes to your passion in racing, is there a way you can describe how passionate you are about this sport?
I don't know a lot of people that are as passionate as I am. It gets the best of me. Saying how I feel or what I want, that's two different things in my opinion. It's kind of just self-promoting, but keeping it real, very real at the same time. I like to be raw and uncut, but there's still that cut version you have to have, But if you get me outside the social media or the public, you get where I'm coming from. But just keeping real. There's not many people that are that way anymore.
So there is an edit button. So there are times when you'll be ready to fire a tweet off and you pull the finger back?
There's not many of them.
Are there times when a few hours later the next day you fire up the Twitter and say, oh?
There's probably been maybe 2 or 3 times I've gotten back on the next morning and deleted something.
Okay.
It doesn't happen very often, and usually it wasn't necessarily a post directed to the public. It's more or less directed at one person. I know they've seen it, pull it down. There's people out there that need to hear it. I'll be the first to take blame for something I've done. I'm not the first to always point fingers, but sometimes it's just you got to tell somebody how you feel, and I'd rather tell them in person. But sometimes you got to get on some things, especially some of the racetracks that they need to see how the public looks at their track, good or bad. They need to see the good and the bad side of things, and social media is a way to do that.
When you're out on the racetrack, do you sense, if you've been critical of a fellow driver or had something with and not necessarily with the racetrack, but with a fellow driver, have you sensed anything that there's any, or is the racetrack separate from the social media world? I
think the racetrack's pretty separate from the social media world. There's probably been 1 or 2 instances in the past where it's kind of gotten on the racetrack a little bit, but nothing where it's landed you in the pit area halfway through the feature. Some people might not appreciate what you have to say, but just move on. It's good for everybody, and honestly, I think it would be good if someone gets criticized, if they'd fire back in a sense. It just puts on a show. It's in front of an audience in a sense on social media.
The fan reaction to this has got to be fascinating from your seat.
It's fun to watch people, especially the people that don't like you.
Yeah.
You read it and you just laugh, and it's like people say you go to their page and they got 10 followers, and
right.
you just kind of brush it off. They don't like you. You know what I mean? They don't like you. It don't matter if you compliment somebody or bash somebody else. They're gonna have something negative to say, and I'll be like I said, I'll be the first one to give credit where credit is due. So it's one of them things where you just kind of roll with them people. You just kind of read it and just scroll past it.
Yeah, entertainment.
Yes. Yep.
Indeed.
Perfect.
And then you've got other people that are preach it, Danny, preach it, and they're sitting in the pulpit. They're having a religious experience with you.
You got to do the same thing with that too. Almost, you got to read it and pass it by. You know what I mean? You can't jump on just the people that are your fans that want to agree with you. You just got to keep your single mindset, of your own.
The ones that love you, though, I mean, you got a fan that drives from New Hampshire to see you race about every other week.
Yeah, Linda's down here somewhere. Linda Cook and her husband, they come down here all the time. They follow everywhere. They went to Mansfield. They come here. They come to PA a lot and follow us around.
Sprint car racing, 410 sprint car racing across the country. World of Outlaws, All Stars, Knoxville, Jackson, Calistoga. It all. What's your sense of how things are across the country, and as you see it, not only as a driver but also with the business you're in? You're talking to a lot of people. What's your sense of the sport across the country?
I think the sport's good. I really do. There's a lot of cars. There's a lot of cars all over the country racing right now. It seems like more than ever, but like we just talked about, I don't think there's as many car owners. I think it's more father-son efforts or owner-driver efforts.
Right. Indeed. They determined that Danny Dietrich is king for the day of the sprint car world. And I don't know whether that's John McCoy's job or Brian Carter at the World Racing Group or whoever. You're the grand poobah, the king for a day. What's a couple things that you would like to see from the promotion, from the car side, from that side?
I'd like to go back to some older rules.
Okay.
I'd like to see if it would bring racing back. Racing's not bad. I mean, it's not horrible now. There's certain tracks that are bad, and there's certain tracks that are really good.
Sure.
But I can remember 15 years ago when all of racing was good. Didn't matter where it was at. I'd like to see emphasis put into track preparation. At some places it isn't, and I'd like to see dish wings come back. Maybe a couple more tire options. Not saying open it up, but give you more options to run rather than everybody's got the same tire on or everybody's got the same wing on, so to say. I'd like to just see stuff like that change.
Away from the racetrack, you work in the racing industry, you go to the race shop and work on the race car, you get on social media, you talk about it, you go to the racetrack on the weekend. What's your getaway? Or do you have one?
When do we have time for that? In the wintertime, in the off season, me and Rachel, we usually go down to Cancun or Jamaica or somewhere south where it's warm. Get away from the cold, usually about a week before Christmas. When things are getting amped up here, we come back with 7 days before Christmas gets here, just enough time to, get a tree, get stuff up, get away from everything. Go somewhere that's fun. We don't like to go places that you sit around and you end up wanting to be on your phone because they're boring. We like to go places that are exciting and a lot of fun and get your mind away from all the racing and all the politics of racing and any kind of work you have to do.
Is there anything during the season you sneak away for a few hours to get away, or is it pretty much 24/7?
I was trying to find a way to get about 3 hours to myself in a week. It's tough. Between working and then leaving there and going to the race shop, or going home to Rachel. I always like some time to myself. Sometimes I find myself sitting on the porch eating peanuts, drinking a beer, just by myself, just to get away. So it's not that I get tired of people. It's just you need that space sometimes, just to relax, not have to think about anything.
5 years from now, where are you at?
I don't know. Hopefully still sitting here with you talking about racing.
Yeah.
Ultimately that's what we want. But a lot can change in 5 years. So we'll see what happens. 5 years, maybe I'll be still racing. Maybe I'll be promoting. Who knows?
Is that something you'd like to try sometime, the promotional end of it?
I'd like to promote a little more than just one race a year. Someday down the road. I don't
really
not now. I want to keep racing for a while, but someday down the road, promoting would be a lot of fun. I'd like to, if I take a step away from driving, I want to go promote. I think there's a lot there's a lot of want on my end of being able to bring a track back, maybe pack, seeing helping the Whitecoats here, seeing in Port Royal, when you can look in the grandstands and it's pretty full, you just feel like you had a part in that. It's a good feeling, that you did something to help pack the fans into the stands, and that's rewarding on my end just to see that.
When you do this, you become a track promoter. Someone's going to get on Twitter or on Facebook. Some snot-nosed driver is going to get on there and going to be what would picture yourself? I know we're playing pretend here, but what would that be like?
I'll have to learn to be a yes man.
Really?
For certain people, I can do that, but that's what you'll have to learn to be. Yep, I agree. Just go along with it.
Indeed. Final question to people that love you, people that hate you. Sum up your passion. Sum up who you are. Who's Danny Dietrich?
I'm just a guy that loves sprint car racing. I like any kind of racing, but specifically sprint car racing. And all I want to do is see more people in the grandstands, see bigger paying races, more special events, and I like branching out to different racetracks. So, if I can ever support anybody that wants to try something at a new track we haven't been to and in the area, or if somebody wants to do something different, I'm all for it. I just want to see more people at the races.
More people at the races. That's a good thing. It's Danny Dietrich.